Welcome to the next part. And the next part is sort of where we do an about change in the sense that we've been asking you, or everyone's been asking you and telling you all along to sort of expand and think bigger and broader. And now the idea is to bring things a little bit closer, a little more concise, without losing the depth and breadth of all that you've done. And part of this is that you're trying to present your research to a wider array of scholars, to people who will use it in different ways. And you have to not dumb it down, but you have to make it understandable, presentable, interesting to a wider audience. That said, all of this stuff that you do, you have to keep in mind your audience. So we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about how you pick a journal in which you want to send your research to. That is often very tricky because you want to make sure that they do and publish the kind of research that you have. One of the best places to look is who did you quote and where did they, in your lit review and in your reference section, and where did they publish, because that's really good clue about who might be interested in your work. It's also, you have to be aware of, and then we'll talk more about that later, of predatory journals, because they say if you pay us a lot of money, we'll publish. But they're really not doing the whole peer-reviewed, making sure your research is the best that it can be. Trying to get published can be a cumbersome, tiresome event and not too ego boosting, but in reality, and I'm on a lot of editorial boards, so I review a lot of stuff, you're really trying to make it the best research it can. You're trying sometimes to make sure that people aren't overstating what they're saying or that they're not missing key points. So everybody really is on your team to try to make it better. So you're going to take this huge thing and you're going to narrow it down, and you're going to have to look at what they want, not what you want and what they require. A lot of times they have very specific requirements, so you always have to look and see. And the turnaround time is very long. So that's something to keep in mind also. So it's a lot of research into seeing what journal and then making sure that there's a really good match. The next thing that we're going to talk about and do in this section is we're going to talk about PowerPoints. And I know a lot of you want to make 20,000 slides, and that's not the case. We want to make narrow slides, and we'll talk more about that later. But you do want to keep in mind that whether you're presenting this in public or as part of a CME, that people have a limited amount of time. They have to get the pertinent positives. They can ask you questions later, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit too. The next thing is you're going to do the write-up for what you are going to do to submit to a journal. And again, the PowerPoint, everything we're talking about is you're sort of having to narrow down the process, not expand out, expand out. And I know that there might be tons of really great, cool findings, but if you're trying to present to an audience that is only really concerned about direct patient care, then you might have to emphasize that component of the research and the findings. So one of the things to keep in mind with all of this is know the audience that you're trying to present your information to. And if you know what's important to them, then you can talk about your research or present your research in a PowerPoint or in submissions to a journal in a way that makes it important to them so that they stop and they read it, and they can very quickly glean the information that they need to glean. So it's a big turnaround. It is very much about narrowing things down. I will give you lots of examples within each section. You're also going to be part of, as peer-to-peer, and as sort of as a mini journal people, you're going to review each other's things. There are rubrics for how you review that. They're in the part of the section that says rubrics. Please keep in mind that you are trying to offer positive praise. There's no competition if someone's better than someone else. All research is different. Even if it seems a little similar, it's still different. Otherwise, why would you be doing it if you're just repeating? So everybody's research projects have an important part to play, even if there is no finding. So try to be thinking about positive praise, ways that they could make it more interesting, more presentable, and not being negative in your responses to them. We want to be professionals. We also want to help each other, because the more we help each other and the more research gets out there, especially about people and subjects who are not covered very much. I know in my research, the subject populations, underserved, majority minority, hospital populations, they don't get research done on them. So anything about them is good and new and important. And again, The whole purpose is to improve patient care and get better patient outcomes. So all research is important because it's leading towards that. And we want to be kind, judicious, and helpful to each other in making sure that everybody's research gets out there and gets to a wider, broader audience, because one of the ways that we improve healthcare and we improve the entire healthcare system is by reading wide and far, and that includes lots of research so that we can integrate it into our practices and constantly improve, because we want that continuous improvement system in place in our mind, and we want to be a constant continual learner so that we can always provide the best health care for all our patients and for the entire system to improve constantly.